Every sound in the coal-black night seemed magnified as Lena lay awake in bed, waiting. She heard the quiet rustlings of the shadow people as they crept through the darkness downstairs in her farmhouse, the creak of the barn door and whisper of hay as they moved through her barn on this moonless night. The shadow people were also waiting. Did they hate it as much as she did? The war had taught Lena de Vries to do many things, hard, impossible things. She had learned to be courageous, propelled by fear and faith. She'd learned to face death, gripping the Savior's hand. But waiting was the hardest lesson of all. Every minute seemed like an hour. Every hour stretched endlessly. The sun stood still in the sky during the day, then took its time dawning after each endless night. Like this one. She would find herself hoping against all reason that her husband, Peter, was alive and would come home, and she could hold him in her arms. Or hoping that her daughter Ans and son Wim were still alive and would return. She knew that if one of them walked through her door, her joy would swallow up the long months of waiting. If they ever did return. The past 7 days had been the longest week in all of Lena's 45 years. Spring should be a time of rebirth and hope, but tonight her imagination partnered with fear, squeezing her heart dry, extinguishing hope. She released her breath with a sigh and rolled over in bed, whispering a quiet prayer for Peter and Ans and Wim. And for all the shadow people who waited in the darkness with her. Sleep was impossible. She hadn't slept soundly since the Nazis invaded 5 years ago. She rose from her bed, careful not to awaken her daughters, Micah and Bep, asleep in the bed beside her where Peter should be. Lena kept her girls close to her side these days. She pulled on a sweater over her nightgown and felt her way downstairs, familiar with every narrow step on the steep, angled stairs. She halted at the bottom. A shadow moved around her kitchen as if searching for something. Her heart leapt. "Peter?" she whispered. The shadow turned. It was Wolf, her contact with the Dutch resistance. She didn't know his real name. It was safer that way. "Did I wake you?" he whispered. "I'm sorry, I was looking for a pencil. I wanted to leave you a note." "Do you have news of my husband?" "No, but I do have good news. Allied troops are in Holland. Canadian tanks have liberated many of our cities. Here's the latest newspaper." He pulled the flimsy underground news sheet from his pocket and handed it to Lena. She glanced at it, then instinctively rolled it up so it would fit inside her bicycle frame. She would hide it there from the Nazis when she delivered it to her cousin in the village. "But the Allies haven't come this far yet?" she asked. "Soon. I came to tell you and the others that it won't be long. Maybe even tomorrow." 2 more shadows slipped into the kitchen as Lena and Wolf talked. They left their hiding places only at night and disappeared before dawn. How they must long to feel the sun on their faces again.